Do you remember in Spinal Tap, like one of the funniest moments of Bruno Kirby is the driver and he's talking to them. They slowly raise the window on him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to react, and then he starts talking about Frank Sinatra.
Do you think that they should be making another one of those movies?
Anchorman?
No,
No,
Spinal Tap.
Spinal
They're making
Tap.
another Spinal Tap.
100%.
You do?
Let them have fun.
If-
Yeah, well, it ain't
never
ever going to
gonna be
ruin
good.
the one you love.
No.
but, you know,
It's just going to
it'll be
also
fine.
stink.
But how don't you look? You're talking to a guy who made 3 Clerkses. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on a Dogma sequel. Look, I gotta support all ideas.
The long-awaited sequel.
Good Lord, I've been in this business 31 years. Sequels are fine. But let them have fun. I mean, all those dudes are like on the older side. I recently, you know how like The Simpsons, sometimes like you drop out for 5-10 years and then you interact with again. And you're like, they're using iPhones now?
Yeah.
I interacted with a recent episode of The Simpsons where I was like, oh, they changed Mr. Burns' voice, but it's not. It's Harry Shearer, but Harry Shearer just very
got
old.
old,
And
yeah,
his voice got different. So, you know, that's a clear indicator that there's less time ahead than more.
Yeah.
If those
Gio
cats are
says
like,
it all the time.
let's get together and do it one more time, God bless.
I always say we've lived longer than we will live at this point in our lives.
I mean, that's the thing, and I've been thinking about it a lot while I've been touring around with the movie. Like and this is not a complaint, but I didn't sign up for like a tour of 31 years. Like I just wanted to make Clerks, and then once it happens, like, oh, this is my job, all right, and like you keep going, but there's no handbook, so you don't know when to stop.
No.
So like case in point, you're like, should they do another one? You know, the audience will let you know to some degree, like, oh, don't ruin it, but. What if you're the person who's like, yeah, but we had such a good time doing it, and I think we got a cool idea for it. And if the only reason not to do it is to not piss off people that like the original, it's like, well, wait a second.
I don't think it's and from a filmmaker's point of view, I don't think it's pissing me off. You're not ruining the first one for me.
Right.
You're ruining the legacy. Like the second
What does
Blues
that
Brothers.
mean, though? Legacy, like we don't live in a world of legacy anymore. When was the last time you watched Caddyshack? A certain age, we used to watch Caddyshack monthly.
Yes.
You know, it's like a couple times a year. Now we're drowning in content. There's so much content coming out. There's no such thing as legacy. Even the things that have long tails, people don't like anymore. Star Wars has been tainted for a lot of people and stuff.
You're
so
talking
it's
to the
like,
guy. You're
let
talking
them go. Let them have fun. You know what? Here's my biggest argument for it. Let those guys have fun with the IP, because I assure you, once they're dead, somebody's going to be like, ladies and gentlemen, Spinal Tap 2030. And those people will be forgotten and erased.
Yeah.
So let them enjoy it, man. Life is so impermanent, and it goes by in a blink. And our news cycle is so fast. It's like if the idea of a Spinal Tap sequel irritates you, wait 10 minutes. Something even worse is going to piss you off.
It doesn't. I have.
And I'm just saying, coming to you.
But I don't mean it from the point of view where it's bugging me. Like a new Happy Gilmore, I think is going to stink. But I don't care that they're doing
God
it.
God bless him.
Yeah,
like
but
let
I
him
don't
go.
care.
He looks like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
And as we all know, because they print those articles every time, he is literally making a small fortune.
Right.
Like to run around on that golf
with
stick, they're going to give him $50 million.
And everybody
I would take that golf stick up me. I would accept it if they give me $5 million, $500,000. I'll do a Netflix special, 6 minutes long, where I'm like Mr. Hands, the horse video. They grease up that driver. I'll even take the thick end.
Go get my driver. I'm gonna give him $8 worth.
Let me
right
tell
now.
you something. I drove into this gated community. You do have $500,000 to spare, my friend.
No.
Being around movies, we spent one day on the reboot set, and we had a great time. We were there for 15 hours.
You know, I was thinking of that as I pulled up.
This
I
is
was
so
like,
much fun.
I drove 90 minutes to this guy's house. He couldn't even come to my set.
No. My kids, we had spring break, and I had to go out of the country. That's the only reason why.
Oh, look,
it was
everyone
my
has
idea.
a good reason for everything, Mike. I would have had a good reason to stay home with my mom this morning, who I never see, make her breakfast. But no, Mom's like, where are you going, Tiger? I was like, Mom, I got to go see Mike Calta. She's like, oh, did you grow up with him? I was like, Mom, no, I was at his place once years ago, and we talk on the radio periodically.
Joe
but
and I were
consider him a good friend.
Joe and I were there, and we had a great time. And like being on a movie
You guys
set
were wonderful.
is a lot of fun. And we really had nothing to do but just stand around and observe
and
you know?
watch. But at a certain point, it does get boring. Whenever you bring guests, man, they're like, this is exciting. And then when they see that it's like you just keep repeating the same things over and over from different angles.
It's not
like,
as much. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've now seen Ben Affleck from 4 angles. So like I'm done.
I think we were there 15 hours. The day
you guys
we were
were
there.
princes for stacks.
You know, people, they say that guys lay in bed and think about the Roman Empire and the fall. I lay in bed and I think about I'll never get a chance to be in another Kevin Smith movie.
Not at all. That ain't true.
blew it.
I hear this is between you, me, and the moon, but like, it looks like we're gonna be making another one, and we are gonna be making it down south in an area where it's absolutely drivable.
All
Now,
right.
if you
You
don't
should
go
love
on one of
sequels.
your
Yeah.
expensive family vacations, perhaps your lordship could be there.
Forever, Joe and I can say we share the screen with Chris Hemsworth
That's
because
right.
the scene we made it in is when it's Jay and Silent Bob talking to the hologram Chris Hemsworth,
Yeah.
and there's me and Joe standing right
Yep.
behind him.
That's a guy you got to get in the garage just so they can
Yeah.
have that moment. And he could be like, "You're right, I remember you." He was like, "Wait, I was on a green screen."
I would
someplace
let him
else."
sleep with my wife if he was here.
Right? You're like, I'm the one taking the golf club. Then, oh heavens!
I
You
tell
deserve it.
everyone I've shared screen with Chris Hemsworth before.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
That still blows my mind whenever I think about it. It was like the perfect timing, and it came off the heart attack. Right?
Yeah.
I'd almost died, so people were like, "Oh,
Yeah. Sympathy,
what are we gonna say? No." Like
yeah,
I'd call people. I'd be like, "You want to come out to New Orleans and be in Jay and Silent Bob reboot?" They're like, "New Orleans, that's far." I was like, "Oh, that's cool. It's not like I almost died." Or anything. Like, all right, I'm on my way.
What do you think about this new Superman movie?
I can't wait.
But it looks good to you?
Yeah, oh, dude, it's got crypto in it.
I know. That's the thing
That's
that's ruined it for me.
fantastic.
That's what he does not.
Yeah.
You
like.
don't
Yeah.
like crypto? Who don't
I-
like a dog?
It's not that I don't like
That's
it.
right. I didn't notice a dog coming in here. You're
There's
not a
two.
dog
I
guy?
have 2 dogs. Oh, I don't know. I
So
have
what's
2
the
dogs.
matter?
I don't. I feel like it's too cartoony.
No.
Yeah.
Superman is cartoony.
I know, but Henry Cavill Superman.
we got it. We saw it.
I know.
It was, you
well,
know
you
what
are
I'm
an
saying?
open-minded guy, man. You love that stuff.
Well, here's the thing. I come from comics, or at least I come from reading comics,
Right.
and now I write comics as well. In fact, in June, I got giant-sized Spider-Man coming out. I did a story in. And then in July is one of my favorite things I've ever written across any medium, film, television, especially comics. Archie meets Jay and Silent Bob. It's a 40-page like crossover between Quick Stop and
Does
Riverdale.
Archie smoke weed with Jay and Silent Bob?
You got to buy it.
Okay.
But no, I mean, that's the thing. I've had like my characters are my characters. Like in the story, you know, if you follow my movies in Clerks 3, spoilers, Dante passes away.
Right.
So in our Archie meets Jay and Silent Bob story, Archie gets a job at Quick Stop, and it helps Randall heal from his grief because Archie is so very Dante-like. And so then they wind up like going to Riverdale for Josie and the Pussycats concert. And Jay and Silent Bob figure because they have the weed store next door, they have a daughter from that Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie named Millie. And so she gets to figure in with the teenage kids because all the Riverdale kids are teens. Like it's crazy how many people, I mean, I guess they don't know comics and I guess they don't know like that I'm playing my characters in real time, but how many people would be like, "Oh, you're doing Archie, man? Is Jay and Silent Bob going to have a foursome with Betty and Veronica?" I'm like, they're teenagers. No, that's never going to happen. But the book, it doesn't have like sex or cringe or anything like that. But our characters curse openly in front of the Archie characters, and it plays so wholesome and yet real on the page. Like it's a shockingly good book. I'm so damn happy with it, man. But
That's so
anyway,
great
why
that
am
you
I
get
talking
the-
about
Well,
that?
no, because it makes me happy because I see this is a guy who's living his dream.
Comics.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back to this. This is my defense for that Superman. In comics, right? Let's say you love Batman. There's
Right.
4 different Batman titles.
Right.
And they're handled by 4 different creative teams. So you're used to, as a comic book reader, different takes on a character.
Sure.
So for me, I can take Zack Snyder's take and be like, "Yeah, man, that's like a dark take on Superman." Just as easily as I could take Gunn's take and be like, "Yeah, man, that's like classic Superman right there with the underwear on the outside again
Yeah.
and crypto and stuff like that." And, you know, every generation, they say, or every decade gets the hero it deserves. You either get Batman, if you break it down to the DC equation, you either get Batman or Superman. You tend to get Batman when things are prosperous.
Right.
You tend to get Superman when things are on the bleaker side.
Okay.
So we're heading into, I mean, and this can't be planned, right? It's not like when they start making the Superman, they're like, the worlds are going to be trending downward. It just times out that way. So we're going to get a movie about a very hopeful Superman. And I'm
Okay.
not, and I love
Yeah.
the Snyderverse, man, but the Snyderverse is a very badass, like alien, I can destroy you Superman.
Yeah.
And stuff. The Superman we're about to get is the one that's going to be like, look up in the sky. And, you know, and that's what
Which we haven't seen
need
since
right
Christopher Reeves.
now. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
so-
if he gets close and they're using that, you know, John Williams score
Yeah.
in the commercial. So, you know, they're hinting at that vibe.
All right.
I
You
think
made me
it's gonna
feel
be
better
one.
about it. You made me feel better
That's
about
my
it.
job is
Yeah,
to sell
yeah.
other people's movies.
Yeah.
Now that mine is sold out. Our movie comes out for those who aren't going to see me in Tampa tonight in my 2 sold out shows, or in Orlando for the 2 sold out shows tomorrow. June 5th, Dogma opens everywhere.
Oh,
2,000
a whole
screens.
re-release.
Isn't
Why?
that crazy?
What made you decide to do that?
I decided. I
Oh,
tried to
really?
do this 5 years ago for the 20th anniversary, and I couldn't make it happen, man.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the movie from clench your sphincters, kids.
Yeah.
A long time ago, this movie was made by Miramax. Miramax was owned by Disney at that point. It became something of a polemic, even though the movie is an insanely reverent film, Dogma. And so Disney was like, get rid of this movie. And so here comes the name. Harvey Weinstein bought the movie personally.
Right.
He then licensed it off to a young Canadian company called Lionsgate for theatrical distribution. That was their first $30 million earning movie. And then, of course, they made The Hunger Games and everything else years later.
Yeah.
And home video went to Sony, Columbia, TriStar. And so the theatrical lapsed a long time ago. Home video lapsed probably 15 years into the deal. So for 10 years, people would be like, hey, man, how come I can't get Dogma on DVD? It's because Harvey owned it personally, did nothing with it. Then I would write, I left the Weinstein Company in 2008. So I would write periodically and be like, hey, man, like Dogma's out of commission, and never hear back, and be like, hey, Dogma's coming up on 15th anniversary, never hear back and stuff. Then one day I got after I'd left, I hadn't been at the Weinstein Company in 12 years. I got a phone call. And they're like, hold for Harvey Weinstein. And so I hadn't heard from this dude in 12 years. And he goes, Kevin Harvey. And I was like, hey, man, how are you? And he goes, good. He's going, I just realized I got Dogma, and we haven't done anything with it. And this cast is still like a marketable cast. They're all still working. He's like, do you think you got a sequel or maybe a streaming series in you? I said, oh, my God. Yeah, man. Yeah. And this was a dream phone call. Like, I hadn't heard from these cats, from anybody at Weinstein Company in years. Nothing about this movie of mine, my 4th movie and stuff. So I was like, this would be great. He's like, all right, we'll get into it next week. Then I hung up. 3 days later, the New York Times released an article that was, earth-shattering for those of us who came from that world who had no clue. Like, all we'd ever heard about that guy, because, like, how often do you ever hear about your boss and proclivities at night? Like, that dude was all business.
Yeah.
But within the world, it was known that, like, he cheated on his wife or something like that, maybe. Never heard any of this other stuff. So you're reading the New York Times being like, what?
None of the actresses that you've worked with, nobody ever hinted at that. I believe you.
Joey was like, think about it, Joey Adams. Like, Joey will tell stories about Harvey ignored her. Joey tells a story about the only time that Harvey paid attention to her. And, she was nominated for a Golden Globe for Chasing Amy. But the only time he paid attention to her was at the Golden Globes, when she came over to be like, not rub it in his face, but like, oh my God, I'm here too.
Right,
and he was like, happy to see you. This is great. Congratulations. We'll talk about Cold Mountain. We'll finish that conversation we were having like later on. And Joey realized that he didn't think he was talking to Joey Adams. He thought he was talking to Renee Zellweger. So in our world, he wasn't that guy. He was the guy who ignored our people and stuff like that. So where was I in the story?
I'm still
3 days later.
3 days later, the New York Times. So I talked to my friend John Gordon, who also worked at Miramax, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy! Like, did you know?" He's like, "No, I didn't know." Did you know? I was like, "I never heard anything." And then I said, "John, I don't know how to tell you this, but I feel dirty. But that guy called me last week. He called me and he talked about doing a Dogma sequel and stuff like that." And John goes, "Kevin, he was calling to see if you were one of the New York Times sources." Since you answered the phone, he knew you weren't one. And so he said some stuff you would want to hear about Dogma and got off the phone. If you hadn't answered the phone, he would have suspected you were one of the sources.
Wow.
Now, in terms of egregious things that Harvey Weinstein has done, this is way on the bottom of the list. Feel no pity for me. But long story short is, he had that movie even when he went through his legal troubles. I don't know if anybody knows, but he went through some legal troubles, went to jail.
Yeah.
So a few years ago for the 20th or whatever it was, I was trying to get the movie back. So I wrote like a very heartfelt letter to a convicted rapist to be like, hey man, you own one of my movies. You've made many. I haven't made that many. And this one's tied in with my childhood faith. Catholicism's tied in with my dead father. So can you sell it to me? And I offered $250,000. Got a letter back from the lawyer going, absolutely not. Wrote another letter. pulled together all the resources I could and was going to have to shutter Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, but offered $500,000.
Right.
Was told by the lawyer no. At that point, that's it. I'm not a rich man and stuff. I can't do radio.
I would have threw in some money, man. I would have been part owner.
Well,
of Dogma.
what I did was I did reach out to some people who might have a vested interest in seeing the movie go forward or seeing Dogma have a second life. And
Ben
stuff.
Affleck.
I reached out to Ben and Matt. Then I hit him back with $1 million offer and was still told no. So at that point, I'd heard through the grapevine that he was looking for $5 million.
Oh.
And not for nothing, I love Dogma. But
Yeah.
if I had $5 million, I'd make a new movie.
Yeah.
Never mind buy some old movie and stuff. So I let it go. Then recently, this wonderful woman, Alessandra, like called up 8 months ago and she's like, "Hi, we have Dogma." And I was like, "What do you mean you have Dogma?" She's like, "We bought a tranche of movies from Harvey. He's going through more legal stuff. He's going back into the courts. So he needed more money. So he liquidated any assets he had left. He had a tranche of a couple films, 10 movies. So, a few of them were karate movies he bought in the wake of Kill Bill.
Right.
One of them was Larry Clark's movie Kids, Rosario Dawson's first movie, which that was the first movie that they had to get rid of under the Disney deal. So they bought it themselves and released it through a company called Shining Excalibur. Then the other one was Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore's movie. They also had to divest themselves of that movie because of Disney. And then Dogma as well. So they were like, "Oh, Ben Affleck's in this one," and then reached out to me. And I was like, "Can I buy it back from you?" And they're like, "No, we're going to exploit it." But they're like, "Would you like to be involved?" And I was like, "Oh my God, absolutely." They're like, "You can do anything you want with it. What would you do?" So I said, "Well, I would tour it. Like I've been touring Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Clerks 3. Like that's what I do now in my movies. We overcharge people to go see old movies. And I stand there with them and we do stories afterwards and stuff." And she was like, "Well, what about just re-releasing it?" And I was like, "Well, nobody's going to do that." She made a deal like with AMC theaters, man. That's why like all this tour has been through all AMC theaters and then is going to come out on June 5th. I'm like 2,000 screens, man. But beyond AMC's, other theaters signing up and stuff. This woman made it all happen, dude. And I asked her, like, it's crazy. She never told me anything. Like about, what was it, 8 weeks ago, she was going, "Hey, I got a short film in the Beverly Hills Film Festival." And I was like, "Beverly Hills, that's like 15 minutes away." But she's like, "It's down the street at Groman's Chinese Theater." And that's literally down the street from my house. So I was like, "Oh, I'll go."
Yeah.
So I go down to watch the short film and it's good. And I was like, "Hey, we got a film festival at my movie theater, Smart Castle Cinemas in Jersey. Why don't you send me a link? We'll program it in the fest." And she goes, "Oh, great. My mom could see it." And I was like, "Oh, does your mom live in New York or something?" She goes, "No, my mom lives across the street from your movie theater." And I was like, "We've been working together 6 months. This is the first time you thought to mention that?" She goes, "I don't want to creep you out." I was like, "Too late." And she goes, "Well, this is my creep you out more." She's going, "Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash?" I was like, "Yeah, very well." She's like, "I worked at Coco Paris right next door." I was like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And then she told me the story. At age 10, she saw Dogma. Her mom let her watch Dogma and she fell in love with the movie. She didn't understand half of it, but she kept watching it and watched it over and over again. It was her favorite flick. Then she went out and had a life. She was an actress and stuff and a producer and like a mover and a shaker in a business. She was sitting around.
And brought it all back to her.
She was sitting around watching like YouTube and she saw me doing an interview, tell that same story about trying to get Dogma back. And she was like, "Oh, he needs help." Literally got involved, made it all happen.
So she just saw you say
She
it.
convinced somebody to buy that tranche of films away from that dude, sold off all the movies just to hold on to Dogma, just to bring it out into the world again. It was her dream.
That is
I
amazing.
couldn't make it happen. I tried to make this happen.
Right.
Connections,
The guy who made the movie.
Ben and Matt.
Yeah.
And I made the movie. This amazing miracle woman made it all happen. And so she resubmitted the movie to Cannes, to the film festival, and we got in. So we're going back May 22nd. They just announced it. The Dogma goes back to Cannes. So we get 2 sets of laurels, one from 1999, one from 2025. All because take everything away. All because a fan of the film was like, other people should see this.
Does that make you feel better than probably most of your accomplishments that you've touched that one person so much that that's all this
100%, Mike. When I started the journey, I started it for me. It's very selfish, masturbatory. I want to be a filmmaker. What keeps you going on the journey 31 years in are, of course, moments like that, or moments like, the kid who I went to a Comic-Con, he's like, I had a ratty copy of Mallrats. Looked like it had been through the laundry and the dryer and stuff a few times. And he goes, "Can you sign this to my son?" And I said, "Yeah, but how old's your son?" He goes, "He's like 2." I was like, "Well, he's not allowed to watch this. If he is, get a DVD." And he goes, "Well, that's the movie that saved my life." And as a storyteller, filmmaker, you hear that from people a lot. It's a very
Sure.
sweet thing people say, usually hyperbolic. Don't really mean it. Like I was hanging on a cliff and a copy of Clerks saved my
Yeah.
life. It's just something nice to say. And I was like, thank you. I know how to receive that. I was like, oh man, thank you. And he goes, no, I really mean it. He's going, every day I used to come home from school, my father would beat the hell out of me. Every day, beat me to a bloody pulp, almost to unconsciousness. Now I would drag myself to my bedroom, close the bedroom door, put in Mallrats, escape to the mall with T.S. and Brody and Jay and Silent Bob. He's going, now I'm a father. And I would never do the things to my kid that was done to me. And I survived it. And I want my kid to know that I survived it. He's alive because I survived what I went through with my father. And how I survived that was this right here.
Wow.
Dude, it was Mallrats.
Yeah,
it wasn't
great.
even Dogma, Chasing Amy. It was Mallrats. So that's what gets you out of that bed in the morning. Like, you not just to make movies, to write comics, to do anything, because the trickle down is something I never thought about when I started. When I thought about the audience, it was like, I hope there is one. But that audience has been with me. I'm on tour looking out in the audience, seeing a lot of, white bearded faces like me, old timers in their 50s, sitting next to kids. I had one dude who was like sitting there going, I've been coming to these shows for like 30 years, man. He's like, I started with you on Clerks, so I've been coming. I see you every time you come in the area. I'm here with my adult children. Now they come to these things with me. And he's like, I just got to ask, what's your end game? And I was like, I don't know.
I was
I made Clerks, and I've been making it all up ever since. So those stories, Alessandra going, I'm so moved by the movie. I think other people should see it. Rescuing my movie, saving my movie about angels from the devil himself. Those are things that you never imagined could happen. And those are better than the money. And let me tell you, the money ain't good anymore anyway. So everything's better than the money.
That's amazing. Those are amazing stories.
Kevin Smith and his amazing story.
No, that's good. That's good stuff, because you have to. I'm being honest. If Kevin Smith's out doing a Q&A, you have to imagine you've seen a lot of the questions and answers before. But every time you come on the show, it's an entirely new situation. I'm gonna present one thing to you.
Do it, fire.
We've been going for almost.
And when
an
I say
hour.
fire, I mean fire away, not the way kids are like fire.
No.
I don't want to be one of those old people.
Trust me, I'm old. I get it.
Fair enough.
It's been an hour of commercial-free talk.
Yeah.
I need to take a break. And then I need to bring Keckner in.
Yeah.
I would love it if you've hung around, but I also know if you want to leave, I understand that.
At the very least, I will hang out for a little bit. I can say hello and stuff. But I also know that like I ain't gonna cramp a man's style. Is Keckner in town for shows?
He's got shows at the Improv, totally different from.
I'm not saying like competition, but I want my shows are sold.
Yeah, no, we'll talk and then plug the show, so we'll be fine. Totally. I guarantee you with that. All right, let's take a break. David Keckner's in the waiting room. He's going to come in. Kevin Smith is here. Hey. It is the Mike Calta Show. It's 102.5 The Bone.